Hi, Acadiana. I'm Meteorologist Dave Baker. Welcome to the Thursday edition of Let's Talk Tropics. We are now post Hurricane Francine. Francine, of course, making its way onshore during the afternoon and early evening hours yesterday near Terrebonne Parish, coming in as a Category 2 hurricane with winds at 100 miles per hour. A lot of folks are still trying to get the power turned back on and pick up things. I've been getting some reports down into parts of Terrebonne and St. Mary parishes. It sounds like a lot of folks are breathing a sigh of relief, even though they were hit a lot harder than the rest of the Acadiana area. You got to remember, those folks have already been kicked down by Ida, and it's not fun to see folks get kicked while they're down. No, it's only been 3 years since Hurricane Ida, but there's been a lot of folks that are still trying to pick up the pieces after that devastating hurricane. So let's go ahead and get started on this Thursday. I'm not going to keep you very long today. A lot of cloud cover, but seeing a few peaks of sunshine here in Lafayette. Temperature hovering around 81 with a heat index of 84, so it's not bad here in Lafayette, but areas that got the much heavier rain off to the east, I think it's a bit more juicy out there with the atmosphere, so it's pretty sticky, and unfortunately where the heavier amounts of rain came down, that's also where most of the areas that don't have electricity this morning or this afternoon. Our dew point is at 70, humidity at 74%, southwest winds at 13, and they're going to be a little gusty for a while today as Francine pulls away, and the pressure is at 29.78. And you can see we've got a lot of cloud cover out there, but the roadways are dry. I know traveling's still going to be a bit of an issue farther to the east of the area, beyond Baton Rouge and going toward New Orleans. There's a lot of water that's standing around, and they had a lot of flooding off to our east. So allow yourself plenty of extra time if you're going to be traveling over into southeastern portions of Louisiana. But check it out. Power outages, we here in the immediate Acadiana area and points westward did really well as Hurricane Francine made its way much farther to the south of most of Acadiana, but down into St. Mary and Terrebonne, lower St. Martin, and into Assumption and Lafourche parishes, we're still looking at anywhere north of about 75% of folks that are still without power. And where you're looking at the orange in some of those parishes there, Iberville, and then going over to St. James, St. John, getting into St. Charles, and then over to, even toward Orleans Parish, we've seen the power out as well in those particular areas. So it's going to take a couple of days, especially down in the coastal sections. Terrebonne, Lafourche, and Assumption and St. Mary will probably have the longest time period before getting the power back on. Some of the other parishes off toward the northeast, including St. Tammany, will probably all be back on within the next day or two. So hopefully these folks can get back on their feet fairly quickly, at least a lot more quick than they did during Hurricane Ida. So where is Francine now? Francine is a tropical depression, and it's still moving across northern parts of Mississippi, eastern parts of Arkansas. We still have the cloud cover here, and as we look at the radar out of Jackson, you can see that the swirl is continuing to move up. They're getting some heavier downpours there north of Jackson, going up into the Memphis area, and also some bigger thunderstorms are going to continue wrapping around that there over parts of Alabama. And I'm going to check a couple of more radars here, see how far down that line of showers and thunderstorms goes, if I can get one of these to turn on there. Yeah, so we are still seeing the lines of thunderstorms kind of coming around the outside of what was Hurricane Francine, but locally we're in good shape here. Not really any rain to talk about, maybe a little bit of drizzle here and there, but I think we're going to get back to a little sunshine maybe late today, and then clearing skies overnight. But the latest on Tropical Depression Francine, winds are down to 35 miles per hour, drifting off to the north at 14. It is going to pull up into northeastern Arkansas, and then it's going to kind of stall before it dissipates, and then that remnant low is going to kind of sit there over the Tennessee Valley. Might even shift off toward the southeast, toward Georgia, and then get back out maybe over the waters of the Carolina coast. I don't think it's going to be a tropical system, but we might still have a low pressure area that will kind of roll along a frontal boundary. And the Gulf of Mexico is relaxing after several busy days, so things are looking a lot better. Skies are turning blue, and the seas are also receding. We still have some rough seas off the Florida coast, along where there's kind of a boundary boundary that's there. And then we've also got the seas that are a little rough in the southeastern part of the Gulf. But locally, I think we're going to see improving conditions. Those winds out of the northwest about 20 to 25 knots, but I think by the end of the day, they should be out of the west, dropping down to about 10 to 15 knots. And hopefully all the fellas and gals that work in the offshore waters, those of them, the essential personnel that might have had to stay out there, I think most of your friends and coworkers are going to be returning here very, very soon after they kind of go over and see what the damage is out there before they get our friends back working out on the rigs. Check out the Central American satellite. I know we haven't really looked around the rest of the Atlantic Basin very much over the last several days, but beautiful day over Central America with fair skies from Mexico all the way down to Guatemala and Belize, El Salvador, Honduras, Nicaragua, down to Costa Rica and Panama. Everything looking good. Panama getting some showers there farther down to the south, and we've also got some thunderstorms that are kind of riding the coast of northern parts of Colombia. And then we've got fair skies over northern parts of Venezuela, and the rest of the Caribbean islands are looking good. We do have a couple of little ripples that we're kind of keeping an eye on right about in here and right about in here too. So we'll watch those over the next couple of days, but right now not looking like we're going to see much development there. And as far as the rest of the Atlantic Basin, we do have a new tropical depression, and I've gone ahead and put the numbers for tropical depression number 7 there on that left-hand column. We're going to kind of let Francine go away, but tropical depression number 7 is at 17.8 north and 34.6 west with winds at 35 miles per hour. Most likely this is going to be Tropical Storm Gordon in the near future, and that's what the official forecast is from the National Hurricane Center. And again, no threat to the United States, no threat to the tropical islands right now, and no threat to the Gulf of Mexico either. A very slow-moving tropical storm, may strengthen into a moderate tropical storm going into the early part of next week. But right now, most of the models are showing that this is probably going to stay in the Atlantic and shouldn't bother too many folks. But we are in September now, so probably going to be seeing a little bit more activity. And I still kind of wonder, because the season has been so strange with all of the signs pointing to such a robust season, but yet we've only gotten 6 named storms. I think we're going to end up with 7 here before the weekend. But really, on an average season, we would be a little bit farther than this on the alphabet. So we're going to have to watch and wait and see what happens during the month of September, and especially going into October as well, because we didn't have as many tropical systems in August. Is it going to be more of a September, October type of season? So that is something to watch out for. So those of you who did not have to deal much with Hurricane Francine, not only are we breathing a sigh of relief, but if you were prepared for this and you've got some of the extra items that you would need to get ready for a hurricane and you didn't have to use them this time, you're already ahead of the game in case another system comes. We don't have anything coming right now, but Louisiana has been hit by numerous storms in calendar years several different times. So having 1, 2, or 3 tropical systems come close to us that we would need to prepare for isn't exactly something that's unusual for us here in South Louisiana. So we've been looking at the short range models because we've been watching Francine. So we really haven't taken a good look out into La La Land out 10 days, but I did go back and look at some of the old Let's Talk Tropics, and we talk about La La Land being out at 10 days. And there were a couple of models. We were watching Francine as a tropical wave way out in the eastern part of the Atlantic Ocean beyond 10 days ago. So some of the models were kind of trying to pinpoint something in the Gulf of Mexico 10 days ago. So most of it is La La Land, but occasionally they can bite on something good here. And just kind of letting the GFS roll for a couple of seconds here. You can see there's a few low pressure areas with that tropical depression number 7 that might become a tropical storm but stay out there in the middle part of the Atlantic. And then a bit of a frontal boundary that's kind of moving from the central Atlantic back to the east coast and kind of stretches back northeast of us here in Louisiana. There might be a few low pressure areas that could develop there, but not really expecting anything to affect us here at home. We'll also watch the potential. Some of the American models are showing that what's left of Francine might try to make a turn toward maybe northern Florida and maybe emerge out in the Atlantic Ocean. Something to watch out for, but that is not a likely situation. But of course, this hurricane season, some of the unlikely situations have actually been the final solution. Euro model going out 10 days as well, showing tropical depression number 7 kind of hanging out there in the middle part of the Atlantic Ocean, not really bothering anybody, and then eventually getting a little bit stronger and maybe pulling out into the North Atlantic. It might meander out there for a while, but again, the Euro not throwing anything closer to home. The Canadian model, also very similar to what we're seeing with the Euro, but not quite as strong on tropical depression number 7. You see it just kind of falls apart there and gets absorbed. There might be a frontal boundary moving across the central part of the Atlantic off the backside of a ridge of high pressure. And the Icon model, which is actually the one that was hinting more at Francine about 10 days ahead of Francine coming into the Gulf of Mexico. It was kind of pinpointing on a couple of different lows, but I do have to say that the Icon model, even though for a while we were thinking it was out to lunch, it was actually really grabbing onto something that eventually became Hurricane Francine. So got to trust the Icon model a little bit. They did a pretty good job on the last round of tropical weather. So this one has tropical depression number 7 just kind of meandering there over the middle part of the Atlantic. But remember, the Icon model doesn't go out quite as far as the other global models, only going out about 7 days, but we've got a couple of lows that will probably drift along a frontal boundary that is going to be out here in the middle part of the Atlantic. There's a low and probably like a front that probably goes out like that across the Atlantic. So you can get some lows to develop along that. And I will say that as we've looked at the other 3 models, all of them are really kind of showing low pressure areas developing on that front. They could eventually become tropical once they get out in the middle part of the Atlantic Ocean, but not so likely. So good news is we don't have anything threatening us, at least for right now. And if anything is going to pop up in the next week to 10 days, it's probably going to have to be something a little more homegrown, of old frontal boundary, kind of like what we were dealing with Francine, that started with kind of a tropical wave that was moving west from the Caribbean and a bit of a low pressure area that was off the Texas coast and an old front. So all those kind of came together. So right now I'm not seeing anything like that in any kind of homegrown stuff this time around. So I think we're going to be able to be okay here for at least a week, maybe up to 10 days. Let's hope so. The tropical weather outlook, of course, showing what's left of Francine, tropical depression number 7. Those couple of little ripples that are out there over the western Atlantic. And then we've also got that area off the Carolina coast that probably would be a low pressure area trying to develop along a frontal boundary. But something developing off the Carolina coast would most likely move off toward the northeast and would not be any kind of a threat to us here in the Acadiana region. So we did manage to get through the peak of the hurricane season. That was on Tuesday, so we're on our way down here. But you can still see that the normal activity here stays pretty high going all the way through the mid part of October, and it's very similar what we would normally see during the mid part of August. So if we can get through about the next 6 weeks or so, then I think we'll be able to start to breathe more of a sigh of relief that we wouldn't be having any tropical systems coming on in. So everything going out to the folks that are over in southeastern Louisiana. Those of you who do not have electricity, hang in there. I know there's a lot of folks that are working to try to get the power back on, and hopefully as this Category 1, Category 2 system was moving across South Louisiana, hopefully the damage isn't too extreme and that most folks there in some of those parishes, Terrebonne, Lafourche, and then getting into Assumption and Ascension, all of those parishes there, we really hope the best for those folks and that they can get back on their feet and get back to business here as soon as possible. And hopefully we'll have everybody back and going by about Monday or Tuesday of next week. Get the schools open and try to get ourselves back to normal. Well, I hope you enjoy Let's Talk Tropics. If you do, please like this video and subscribe to my channel. Turn on those notifications too. Also visit my social media pages. On Facebook, I'm at Meteorologist Dave Baker, or you can search Dave Baker Acadiana Weather Today. A lot of folks have hit me with friend requests on another Dave Baker page that I do use for weather. but that one only allows 5,000 friends, and I've got like 600 on the waiting list. So if you have tried to send me a friend request there, go to the Meteorologist Dave Baker fan page there on Facebook, and you'll be able to like the page, and you'll be able to get the same information you would get as if you were a friend on the other page. On X, I'm at Dave Baker TV, and of course you found me here on YouTube on at Acadiana Weather Today. Tell your friends, and I hope to see more of you here joining us as we continue to go in the on the look way out to see if anything would be coming our way. And the more we keep up each and every day, the better prepared we will be, just like most of us were with Hurricane Francine. I'll talk to you on Friday for Acadiana Weather Today at 7:30. Then I'll see you again live here tomorrow afternoon at noon for Let's Talk Tropics. Have a great day.